We are actually talking about staying in tune with your child today. And if you were able to catch the last Lunch and Learn, we talked about fostering a secure attachment with your child. And I shared Dr. Dan Siegel's scientific work around parenting in ways that enable their child to become securely attached. We talked a lot about attachment, and that when children do become securely attached, they're able for much of the time to release optimal levels of those really good calming well-being chemicals in the brain, which in turn helps them to calm and regulate their children. And we discussed trying to be kind of more self-aware and think about our approach matching up and tuning in with our child. I like to think of it like a waltz, like a nice, smooth back and forth dance where, hopefully the majority of the time we're right in step with each other. I think ideally as humans, that's how we would like to be with our partner or, anyone. It feels good to have those type of interactions. And it's, perfectly normal that we're not always right in step. And Dr. Dan Siegel describes the 4 S's that every child needs: feeling safe, feeling seen, soothed, secure. And today we're going to take a little bit deeper dive into helping your kids feel soothed. We're going to really look at that S and how that really helps us to stay in tune with our children and what we can do when we're not in tune, because this is bound to happen for all of us. So again, the 4 S's are safe, seen, soothed, and secure. And this is kind of a good solid definition of what it means to feel soothed. And this is not just parents, but teachers or any adult caregiver, that they're recognizing when a child is in a state of internal distress and that they need help regulating their emotions. And many young children have challenges around transitions, for example, shifting from one activity to the next. So this is just a good example of starting with connection. Like I know you love building with those blocks, but since it's time to go outside now, where do you think we could put your house so it's really safe until you finish it later? And then helping them problem solve, like, yes, let's put it on the top shelf where nothing will happen to it. Or, if they're building with popsicle sticks or making some kind of art piece, we can let it dry while you're outside. And then, I'll make sure that you have time to work on it later. So, these are things that children, of course, like struggle with, like that starting and stopping and stopping and starting again. So it's not that we're not holding the boundary. We have to stop. The boundary is still there, but they have someone connecting with them and emphasizing and helping them problem solve a solution. And just gradually over time, these repeated experiences will help them build their own capabilities. This is great that we have like the scientific research now to show that this actually, when we're doing this with children repeatedly over and over, it actually decreases the frequency and intensity of that dysregulation that they feel and that anxiety, and it actually helps wire their brains to calm and make those shifts. And, we all build internal messages as well. And the child builds this message within themselves that says, if my feelings get big and out of control, then someone will be there for me and they'll help me calm down and they'll help me make good decisions. And so, the opposite of that sort of an internal negative message is not what we want children to have. So if we're just looking at strategies to help children promote inner self-soothing, Um, you want to help your child, build their own calming internal toolkit. When their emotions come up, we learn kind of our first ideas of coping in childhood. I mean, we're as babies, we're not even um, conscious of these things. Like, babies are born and they want to, suck on their fingers, or young children, they want to rub a blanket, or, gradually you might be someone who twirls your hair. And in the moment, they kind of provide some temporary relief. As we grow older, some of these fade, but we want to develop healthy coping strategies that help us move through the discomfort and not avoid it, but help us process it. And so that we're able to move on with life. And, some of these good coping strategies can be, taking a deep breath, or walking away for a minute, just taking a break, or using the peace corner, being able to ask a grown-up for help, or just talking about it to someone, or getting our hands busy, giving children jobs, or getting them involved in something that's sensory or tactile can be very soothing and calming. So the goal is helping our children develop healthy coping strategies and building their own solid toolbox, so they don't develop unhealthy coping mechanisms. It's not that coping mechanisms are bad, and we all have them, and it's not that we want to get rid of all of them, but they're there for survival, and we all have them to some degree, but we don't want them to sort of override the predominant healthy strategies, or move into things that we do want to try to completely change or fade, or that are not healthy at all. And so also, just to be clear kind of about coping strategies versus coping mechanisms, a coping mechanism tends to be something that numbs feelings, pushes them below the surface, and they help us feel better temporarily. And they're kind of a quick go-to, like, just like distracting our, a child, or, giving them a quick snack, or here's a bottle, or trying to fix the problem for them immediately, or giving in quickly, like, definitely decreases the stress, but it doesn't, sort of help in the long run. But some of those good strategies that help us process emotions and, help the child like leave that reactive brain and calm and enter, kind of a thoughtful, calm brain. Those kind of things can be like, they like to go, their go-to is to draw a picture, or to color, or to listen to music, or read a book, or do some of the deep breathing, or hugging, or just playing for a few minutes, just or noticing, just stopping and breathing and noticing, like, the sky or clouds, or looking outside, and just using nature to help them calm. Sometimes writing or listening to music, and then some of those things we use within the Peace Corner in the classroom. And then also, I think it's, really important for all of us to remember to practice these tools ourselves, and try to model them as much as we can with the children, because when they see our calm, they're better able to access their own calm. And if we're making breathing, deep breathing a part of our everyday practice at school, or if you're doing it as part of like your bedtime routine, like your nightly ritual, this can help them really just acquire that as a habit, because they really have to be able to access that and practice it when they're calm, to be able, when the moment when they're upset, it's just kind of everything goes out the window, and they're not able to come around to that calming tool unless they've practiced it a lot over and over. We're all kind of that way. So at night, you can do some of the deep breathing things, like have them hold a stuffed animal in their tummy and let go of it, let it balance on their tummy, and then have them do deep breathing in and out and watch the animal go up and down. It helps them become really aware of their breath, or counting while breathing, or imagining for the little ones, like the toddlers. I like to start with the imagining that they're smelling a flower and imagining they're blowing the petals, because they don't have that ability to sort of recognize that breathing, but it gives them a visual. And they do gradually catch on, even though they don't seem like they would understand it when they're that young. But again, it just takes a lot of practice and time over time to develop. But it starts with really allowing them to feel all their emotions. We're the ones really who have to get comfortable with their discomfort and not try to force or stop the distress. It's definitely, I think, triggering, and depending on the moment and what's going on, it's more triggering in some situations than others. But I think it's definitely instinctual for all of us to want to stop that distress, that outward expression. And it's important for us to remember, and we can also teach children eventually, that feelings are just a part of us and they don't last forever. And even some of, the good visual examples are almost like kind of like the Etch-a-Sketch, or the Buddha board. Like if you draw feeling faces and then have them, they either fade away on the Buddha board, or you make them shake and go away with the Etch-a-Sketch, or gradually go away. That's like a good visual to teach that lesson around how the feelings in our body gradually fade. But until they really understand that and have a good access and practice with that, they really do need us to co-regulate so they don't get stuck there and they can move through those emotions. So again, just model, watch, how you're handling your own discomfort and stress. What are your coping strategies? Just kind of thinking about them. What are they seeing you do when you get stressed? And then I think this is a nice way of thinking of like offering your peace. Dr. Siegel talks about your presence, your engagement, your affection, and your ability to be calm and provide empathy. We want children to receive a consistent message of support. Like if you find yourself in a situation where you're overwhelmed or out of control, I will help you, and together we'll get you back to calm. You may not get what you want right now, but it will be okay. I'm completely here for you. So soothing a child, it helps develop the upstairs brain, and which is really that executive function piece, that frontal lobe, and it promotes more sophisticated function. So this is the long-term goal. And these are those wonderful traits and skills that your child will gradually develop with all of your hard work around supporting them each day, sort of moment to moment. And it really makes total sense, whether you're a child or an adult. If you have big reactive emotions that are just engulfing you, it's emotional, cognitively, and physiologically, and you are definitely going to be feeling all the stress in your body, and you think no one's going to help you, or if you think you're going to get in trouble or be shamed or unsupported, it's actually going to do the very thing that we don't want it to do. It's actually going to increase stress and anxiety and fear and anger. And unfortunately, like it creates this negative feedback loop that's very tough to get out of. We're all born with this strong protective brain, or what we might call the downstairs brain. And it's kind of pleasure seeking and pain avoiding. In a newborn baby, it's, all about, am I, safe? Are all my needs, met? And over time, we're trying to help children develop that thoughtful brain, or that upstairs brain, and develop those executive functions that allow them to be the boss of themselves. And as I said, it takes thousands of positive experiences repeated over time to develop that thoughtful brain. And that protective brain is really the gatekeeper. The child, has to feel safe to use their thoughtful brain. If they have to be calm and soothe, if stress is flooding their brain, they cannot access all these wonderful skills here. So, what is it that soothes a protected brain? It's really human connection. It's a calm, connected adult that's totally on their side. So we want to soothe the protective brain, and engage that thoughtful brain. And this will help develop all of these skills to help them navigate the world. So the anatomy of kind of that inner soothing. Soothing comes from joining with your child, and it comes from being present. So if we're kind of looking at, the parents, like upstairs thoughtful brain, your brain perceives your child's distress, and our bodies know before our brain what we are feeling. So it helps all of us to develop a strong awareness of what's happening in our body. And when we can sort of access that and calm ourselves, it helps us use our thoughtful brain. And we can help children become aware of what's happening in their body. And over time, they can really learn to trust their own bodies. I think if we're describing for their emotions, like we're putting that label with the, not just their facial expression, but what's happening in their body. When you're clenching your hands, when you're clenching your teeth, when your face is red, so they can really like get a visual of and very much tune in to how their bodies are feeling. Because this sort of emotional suffering really affects the nervous system, and it can send them into that fight, flight, or freeze response. But those interactions with their parents or with teachers who really show up for them in the moment and help them regulate, or help them, calm and help soothe them, this really helps them develop that thoughtful upstairs brain over time. And then they will gradually be able to calm and soothe themselves. So we're actually promoting change within the actual hardware of their brain that will allow them to develop significantly greater resilience, as well. And we want our children to be resilient, and this will help them have a happier life. So, even using language around their bodies, like for example, like when your body and your voice is calm, then we can talk about what happened, or we can talk about that together, or I can sit by you until your body is calm, and then we can talk about XYZ. So naming the feeling, empathizing, sometimes just the empathy is enough, like just even labeling for them, like, or just even asking, like, you look sad to me, or are you sad, or you look kind of frustrated. Sometimes just that acknowledgement is enough, that it doesn't sort of require this, longer regulating process. And And sometimes it will just kind of turn into a smile and they'll go back to what they were doing, um, or it could be like you do seem frustrated, do you think you need some help? Or, putting that on them to let you know if they do. And also helping them process disappointment, not fixing things for them. Because just as much as some of those emotions come up around situations that they really should be, frustrated about, sometimes it can just be around just an utter disappointment that we're not necessarily going to fix, but we're just going to help them process and work through the emotions of it. So there's actually two aspects of soothing the self. And I think we've talked a lot about co-regulation, even in different trainings, and about that, repeated soothing and using connection and relationship to soothe your child. But the experience of sort of your inner self, has both an inner and an inter component. And we want to notice, within ourselves and teach children to tune into their body, but also to develop an awareness about how our inner self is also connected to a part of others around us, to the world, to nature, to animals, to pets. And we can find intersoothing by developing those coping strategies that we talked about earlier that can connect us and bring us out into the world around us, like the going for a walk, or deep breathing, or petting or snuggling with your dog, or tuning in and listening to the birds, or let's go watch your shadow on the sidewalk. These are important skills to teach children that we're a part of a world much larger than our inner focus. So it's not just about being just about me, that we're also a part of a we, and that we're also encouraging them into, a sense of belonging and a sense of relationship and connectedness with all of these things. And that we're not just supporting sort of like the isolation of just the me. I think this is just a nice way, and especially one of the easiest ways to think about soothing, is to think about zones that represent the intensity of our emotions. And, with children, kind of the basic idea is that under most circumstances, we want our children to be in this green zone. We have red, yellow, green, and blue. And the green zone is kind of that just right feeling. Your child is in a place that they're ready to learn, they're engaged, they feel in control, they feel safe, even if they're a little challenged. And when they get a little frustrated or excited or kind of super silly, which can be kind of a coping mechanism, this is kind of the caution place. And we just want to pay attention. And are they able to bring themselves back to the green zone, or do they need a little bit of that co-regulation? Because we can get in front of it and kind of help them before they, if we see it going into a direction of like moving to the red zone. And this is where they might become flooded with anger or fear or any big emotions that create distress. And this is what we kind of call flipping your lid, because your frontal lobe, like if you think of that like like flipping up, and you don't have access to that reasoning, judgment, or problem solving. And it could be that the child's in fight or flight, that prefrontal cortex, or upstairs, it's thoughtful brain has kind of been hijacked, and they definitely need us to help them, co-regulate and bring them, back down to that green zone. Or they could have big emotions that kind of force them to shut down and freeze or hide. And if this is happening, then they're entering the blue zone and their nervous system is kind of dialing down. It's more of an under arousal state versus that sort of over arousal in the red zone. And, neither of these places, the red or the blue, is your child able to, reason or access that thoughtful brain and be able to problem solve or talk about what's happened, or be able to readily bring themselves to another state. They're going to need that support to calm. So when they leave the green zone and they enter the blue zone, they're also dysregulated. And, when your child is in that dysregulated state, they definitely, need you to step in and help them co-regulate. I think a good example is, thinking about tantrums. I think a long time ago, we were always told to, ignore a tantrum because if you step in and help a child while they're having a tantrum, then they'll just keep doing it to get what they want. But, yes, we want to hold the boundary. We, absolutely do not give in. But we want to also, say yes to connecting with a child, because a tantrum is when, they're really emotionally distraught. They are out of control, and it's not that they won't regain control. It's really that they can't in that moment. And our ability to help them, soothe them, really leads to that growth in their brain that allows them to develop a more independent, autonomous self-control over time. And, they're just little of their learning, and sort of at all ages, we kind of have a tantrum from time to time. So we definitely want to hold that boundary, but at the same time, provide soothing and support for the emotions that your child is feeling. And, we can hold firm boundaries about behaviors and expectations, while being soothing towards them. And, I see this, often in the classroom, even with the teachers. Your friend is working in that space, and I know you really want to turn with these materials. It's hard to wait, but I want to help you make a different choice next time. Or, let's pick up these together, or what can we do next time? I know you're feeling, frustrated or angry, but, we have to do something different, or, we have to take care of our things in the classroom, all of that. They're just definitely holding the boundary, but they're being warm and connecting and empathizing with the child's feelings in the classroom. So I think this is a great thing to kind of know about. I think if you're sharing it, it's great for us to understand emotions. And it's also a great tool to share with children. Many of the therapists have shared it with children in the primary classrooms, but I think they really need to be that age and older to understand the association with the colors and the feelings. So perceive, make sense, respond. This is referring to Dr. Siegel's triad of connection. And a soothing response can be verbal, or it can be nonverbal words of empathy or affirmation, just saying like, hey, that really must have hurt. Or, I'm here when you want to talk about it. I think most of our communication, the vast majority, is nonverbal. We give off a lot of messaging, and we're not even aware of it. So we have to be kind of self-aware and more in tune with that. Our posture, our timing, are we allowing some time for the child to see if they can figure this out for themselves? even like our intensity of the response, are we coming across kind of harsh? Um, the look on our face, like, does it match what we're saying? Um, we can just be nodding. We're not even aware that we're nodding, but if you can help your child, feel your empathy, this can also diffuse any anger or defensiveness that they have, and they're quicker to kind of get back to that green zone that we were talking about. But nonverbal, we just need to remember that this is kind of the central way we connect to one another. And we want to try to practice reflective listening, even if we're not accurate all the time, which we're not going to be. Even if we're not getting it, if they're feeling our empathy, kind of the same way with us. Like, you might think I'm upset about something that I'm really not, but just the fact that you're empathizing with my emotions, I just feel seen, and it might just make me feel better. And I think children are very much the same way. Or just trying to connect even when you don't understand. Like, I understand you felt angry. Maybe I'm sensing that you felt blame before you had a chance to tell your side of the story. So just, we want to pay attention to how we may be coming across to a child. And I think, your child, and I think the majority of children are very responsive to touch. It's so important for babies and young children. They need that. And we all do to some degree, but, some children like, rocking by themselves, or being held and rocked, or patting their back, or just, touching their hand. So, we know, or we learn what they prefer, and those can be great ways to just attune without even saying anything. And most really respond to physical touch, but if it's a hug and it's not my child, then I ask, would you like a hug? Or you look like you could use a hug. Would you like a hug? Or do you want a hug, or do you want to stomp your feet? Because you look like you're really frustrated or you're really angry. So just trying whatever that is kind of their thing, and not everything works every time. And then sometimes, like, we are, of course, not going to be in tune. The reality is that sometimes we miss opportunities for attunement. Sometimes life is just stressful, just gets in the way, and especially for adults who have a lot of competing demands, and it's hard to regulate our own emotions. And it's certainly not about perfection. This is normal, and I think children are always watching us, and they're seeing how we respond. So we definitely can't hide our emotions and shouldn't hide our emotions. So I think you don't have to give too much information that's beyond their development, but you can say when you're sad or you're frustrated, because they see that on your face anyway. I think you can even talk out loud about things that are frustrating. Like, I give the example of, like, not being able to find your car keys and walking through the steps, and problem solved, or even making up things that are sort of, everyday things that could happen, just to model that processing for them. So, when you are out of tune, what can you do? I think first is just acknowledging that you may not be in tune for any number of reasons that are not your fault. Or if you become aware of it, even saying to your child, like, hey, I noticed you were saying something to me and I really wasn't listening. I had something on my mind, but I want to hear what you wanted to share, or whatever. You can get back in step with someone. And we do that in adult relationships all the time. So we have to check in with ourselves. And I know my children would even say, like, you're not listening. Um, and so I would even think to myself, okay, I'm going to try to be really present and give, 100% of my attention when you're talking to me, because we have so much on our minds. Um, and, just thinking about subtle things like, do I feel like withdrawing from my child's distress? Is there something about, handling my child's distress that's interfering with staying in tune? Do I feel my time with my child is increasingly stressful and I feel more irritated myself? Like, is this kind of becoming habitual a bit? And do I need to step back and look at why we're not in sync and in tune? Is my child avoiding me or not coming to me for help? And can I kind of step back and, think about, our interactions and, one, try to really observe your child's cues, thinking about their needs, thinking about their perspective. I think we all have kind of, I think of young children as having signature cues. And they're all things that we do, ourselves, like that I was mentioning about, like twirling your hair, shaking your leg back and forth, or, there are things that your child probably does that are kind of part of their little repertoire that we can tune into. Um, Thinking about just the self-awareness of our own stress and not sort of overdoing or interrupting or over directing or giving too many commands, um, kind of checking in with our own anxiety. These things can be intrusive. They can be, where your child is feeling your anxiety, and it, you might see them, shifting to like moving away. You're not like moving towards each other. So those are just kind of things that you can sort of go through and, check for yourself. Children can have their own stress hormones increase, and they might act out or withdraw kind of based on what they're feeling for us. We might see, a decrease in, positive interactions between us, and, maybe not just like one or two, like where it's becoming a bit of a pattern. So we might want to just take a look at that. Or, are we seeing kind of less stimulating, nurturing language? Are we kind of rushed? Are we getting into stressful responses? I think one great thing that we can do is, find someone who can attune to you and emotionally regulate you and help you process. I think Hand in Hand talks about the listening partner. I've shared that before. But having a listening partner, whether it's your life partner or a friend or a family member, and talking through some of those situations, or just your life, or things that are going on, so you can like process and calm and have self-awareness around it, so you can shift that dance like back to being in tune and back to a nice waltz. Pinch hit for each other, let another family member or close friend provide a secure base for your child, and so that you can have some time for yourself, or self-care, or just a break. So what happens when a child does not feel soothed? When another, when, just another human's not receptive to our inner world and doesn't attempt to make sense of that inner experience, and they try to respond the best that they can in a timely, manner. And they're somewhat effective, because we do this with babies too. We go through and kind of figure out, and for the most time, we pretty much hit the mark and we're pretty effective. But if not, any of us can feel kind of dismissed or misunderstood or invisible. And we hope that, a child doesn't feel unloved. So again, it won't be perfect all the time. And remember, from the attachment topic, we talked about how we just kind of want to get it 2/3 of the time where we're hitting the mark, because it's definitely not going to be 100%. But again, you know your child and you observe them and you attune to their internal state in the moment, and you try to make sense to the best of your ability, and you offer a response that matches your child. And in turn, your child knows that they are seen and soothed and understood. And then your child learns they can trust their own internal experience, and they can count on the people that they're most connected to in their life, that they get them. And, just a reminder that like soothing is not the same as coddling. It's like you could put up a big sign that rules and boundaries still apply. I can see you're really mad, but everyone has to stay safe. And this means that we're not hurting each other. What could we do instead? What's something you could do to help yourself calm right now? So you're still holding that boundary. And we talked about, some of the strategies already. If you don't know about, the Peace Corner, we did a whole lunch and learn on that, so we can share that. But sometimes, calming music or music that gets your child moving. And also, I think adding that thinking about movement can also help them build that body awareness. Like, I am not my anger, I'm not my thoughts. Breathing, balancing, noticing how my body feels, and noticing how it feels when it's calming, and what I do to help it calm. That learning can take place over time. Yoga poses, I think, help a lot, with that, because they include the mindfulness piece, and the balance and the stillness and the noticing of your body. Making a glitter jar can be like a good visual anchor. Reading books about managing emotions or about mindfulness, they're like, what does it mean to be present? Zen shorts, a pebble in your pocket. I can share a book list, but those can be really nice. And then coming up with a distress signal can be another tool. Your child doesn't always have to come up with their own regulation strategy. It's a good skill for all of us to be able to ask for help when we need it. And that vulnerability is important. And throughout our life, we all have times that we need others to help us regulate. And we need to be able to ask someone to lend an ear, or lend a hand, or offer a hug. And some children are good at asking, but if not, you can come up with a distress signal, and it can be a silly word. It can be a gesture, like just tapping their own shoulder. Doesn't really matter what it is. It's just having something that the two of you know about, so that your child has that ability to communicate with you when they need you to step in. And then, back to the peace, presence, engagement, affection, calm, and empathy. There's no magic bullet. Something may work one day, but not another. And we're all a bit like that. So just showing up, being present, being truly engaging when we are showing up, using active listening, reflecting, their feelings back to them, thinking about our nonverbal communication, our eye contact, nodding, not lecturing, but just being really purposeful about how we're responding, showing affection. And the hardest one, remaining calm, so that we can offer our calm to help them learn to calm. And empathy, of course, that we're feeling with them. It might seem, silly or small, but these things are important to them. And again, it helps them build that skill so they can manage the bigger things. And, so much with parenting, we worry so much that we're not going to do it perfectly, or that we're not, getting it right, or we're going to harm them in some way emotionally over time. Um, but relax and enjoy your children, because your anxiety about this isn't good for you, and it's not good for your child. And the key is not that they're always, happy. They are going to have a range of emotions. They're going to have tantrums. They're going to experience anger and sadness, and it's just a part of life, and we can't shield them from that, and we shouldn't. Um, we just have the opportunity now to help them build their own toolbox so they can navigate the world when we're not around, and they have those little things to pull out for themselves. And the things we're helping them with now are really easy practice. So you don't have to worry so much. You can just help them develop these tools, and definitely take care of yourself as well, and show up for yourself. Build your own support system, and take breaks, and have grown-up time, and reflect on your own childhood and experiences and emotions, and think about how you're handling your own stress right now, how much stress you have, um, your coping mechanisms, your coping strategies, and do you have a good toolbox for yourself, or do you want to add some more, and what would they be, and how would you practice them? Because that will definitely serve, your child as well. So thank you guys so much for showing up today, for talking about staying in tune with your child. And I just appreciate it. And we will get together again next time, but we'll stop right now with, and answer any questions if anybody wants to visit.
Yeah, I have a question. So I have a 2-year-old that has entered that my mind, and then she starts escalating kind of phase. Um, and I've been trying to take some of your suggestion and about the peace corner and trying to help de-escalate for that. And I was just curious if you had anything specific around that, or how to handle those type of situations.
Um, Tell me, how old is your child?
She's 2 or just turned 2.
Okay. Okay, that makes a difference. So with the really little ones, this is all definitely really new to them. And I think starting with, just like just naming their feelings, and just the simple ones like happy, sad, mad, um, reading books about managing emotions, like specifically for toddlers, which I can send you the book list about those. And really with toddlers, it's definitely that co-regulating piece. They really need help with, just being calm. You're just helping them get calm in those moments. If that makes total sense. As they get closer to 3, they start building some of their own, self-regulation um, strategies a bit, and they kind of build and build from there. Um, but those toddlers, like they really need us, like, to sit with them, or to use, just affection and patting. But they're kind of amazing at that age, even, um, just, do you need a hug? You look sad. And I see them kind of shift and change. So they really start to, even though they're not verbally expressing that language, they are understanding what we're saying, and it really does make a difference over time.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sure. Um, Anybody else?
Well, these are some great tools. I really appreciate it. Thank you
Oh,
for hosting the
good,
Lunch
good.
and Learn today.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. I know there's a lot of information and some things it conjures up thoughts in your mind, um, but yeah, there's lots of great tools around all of this and it's really fun and great to share. So yeah, I appreciate you guys coming. And if you think of something else later, feel free to email me and I'll send you any resources. And I can send you the resources about like the toddler resources as well. Um,
Yes, that'd be great. I'd appreciate that.
yeah. Do you want to just email me and then I'll have your email?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. It's just ajackman@suzukischool.com.
Okay, I'll send that over right now then. Thank you.
Okay. You're so welcome. All right. Well, thank you. And we're going to kind of keep digging into the four S's because it's kind of fun because it's really sort of deep information in each area. Um, so we'll do that again after Thanksgiving.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. Take care.
Okay, thank you. You guys have a great holiday.
You too.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Aileen.
Yeah.
Okay, bye. Take care.